Top 10 Most Terrifying Discoveries of World War II. Hello, I'm V. Watch with caution. These shocking revelations might just upend everything you thought you knew about World War II. Number 10. The Mythos Files and the Vanishing Nazi Technology. In the aftermath of the Battle of Berlin in 1945, Soviet forces uncovered one of the most mysterious artifacts of the war, a file labeled 1G23, later nicknamed the Mythos Files. Inside were Hitler's private letters, blueprints of experimental Nazi superweapons, and schematics for unfinished doomsday technologies. Among the bizarre project detail was the V3 supercannon, a multi-chamber artillery design capable, at least in theory, of hitting targets nearly 190 miles away. It was intended to obliterate London from afar, but failed due to fatal technical flaws. Another project, even more outlandish, was an attempt to drill into the Earth's mantle, an early vision of deep Earth exploration decades ahead of its time. During the Cold War, both the US and USSR scrambled to reverse engineer tech from these files. Covert programs like Operation Paperclip brought Nazi scientists and their knowledge to America. Some of these concepts may have even influenced the development of stealth coatings used on the B-2 bomber and anti-gravity theories that fueled the space race. One infamous example, the Kola super deep borehole in the Soviet Union, which reached just over 40,000 feet deep, was rumored to be inspired directly by the Mythos Files. Number 9. Eugenics behind genocide. The horrors of the Holocaust were not limited to Jewish persecution. Behind the Nazi extermination campaign was a twisted eugenics program designed to systematically erase what they called inferior lives. From 1939 to 1945, under the so-called T4 program, more than 270,000 disabled individuals, psychiatric patients, and those with chronic illnesses were murdered by poison gas, lethal injections, or starvation. The Nazis set up fake medical centers and used terms like relocation for treatment to deceive families. Even death certificates were forged to hide the true cause of death. In their Lebensborn project, Fountain of Life, the regime forcibly paired racially pure Aryan men and women to breed ideal super babies. Blonde, blue-eyed women were often sent to hidden birthing centers in French manors or Norwegian hospitals, where their children were taken and raised by SS families. Babies born with defects were quietly executed. And in perhaps one of the darkest twists, Nazi officers even kidnapped Eastern European children who looked sufficiently Aryan and forced them through a process of Germanization, erasing their identities completely. These atrocities became a brutal lesson for the world on the dangers of unchecked science without ethics. Number 8. The suicide fighters of the Werewolf guerrilla army. As Nazi Germany collapsed in early 1945, Joseph Goebbels launched a desperate last-ditch operation called Operation Werewolf. The idea was simple but chilling: unleash guerrilla chaos behind Allied lines through sabotage, assassinations, and suicide missions. Most of the recruits were teenage boys, girls, and elderly men, many from the Hitler Youth and League of German Girls. After receiving minimal training, they were sent into occupied areas with explosives, grenades, and cyanide capsules. Their mission: destroy bridges, attack Allied troops, and never get captured alive. To bolster morale, Goebbels created Werewolf Radio, a propaganda broadcast filled with fabricated victories and calls to resist at any cost. Editorials like "Resist, no matter the price" stirred up fanatic loyalty. One infamous case. In March 1945, 17-year-old Ilse Hirsch led a 6-person unit that successfully assassinated Franz Oppenhoff, the Allied-appointed mayor of Aachen. Goebbels hailed it as a national victory, though in reality, such successes were rare. Even after Germany surrendered, scattered attacks from remnants of the werewolves continued briefly. But with Germany in ruins, no outside support, and dwindling manpower, these acts were swiftly crushed by Allied forces. Number 7. The Sun Gun, Nazi Germany's orbital death ray. Among the most science fiction-like projects conceived during World War II, the Nazi Sun Gun was a doomsday weapon dreamed up by German rocket scientist Hermann Oberth in 1929. Initially, it was a utopian vision, a massive space mirror over 300 feet in diameter, placed into Earth's orbit to provide constant sunlight for farming and urban energy. But once the war began, the Nazis saw a darker potential. They reimagined the device as a concave mirror that could focus solar rays into a scorching beam of death, theoretically capable of incinerating cities, boiling oceans, or vaporizing enemy bases from space. The technical challenge? They planned to construct a sodium metal mirror array, weighing over 2 million pounds, and an orbital altitude of around 5,100 miles. The parts would be delivered by unmanned rockets and assembled in space, like a spider weaving a 3.5 square mile web. Decades later, in 1993, the Soviet Union tested a much smaller version in their Znamya 2 project, deploying a space mirror that successfully reflected sunlight back to Earth, briefly validating the Nazi concept. Number 6. The Nazi Bell, anti-gravity, and the warping of space-time. Codenamed Die Glock, the Bell, this mysterious Nazi device is one of WWI's most enigmatic technological legends. Standing around 13 to 16 feet tall, shaped like a metallic bell, it housed two counter-rotating cylinders filled with violet, highly radioactive liquid known only as Cerium-525, possibly containing mercury isotopes or thorium. The goal? To generate a powerful energy field using electromagnetic resonance and spin polarization, attempting nothing less than anti-gravity or even space-time distortion. When activated, the bell reportedly required an entire hydroelectric dam for power. It glowed eerie blue and emitted deadly radiation. Animals and plants near the test site were said to rot or turn into black goo within minutes. In one 1943 experiment, 7 scientists died instantly from exposure, while survivors suffered dizziness, numb skin, and a metallic taste in their mouths. After the war, the device and its research vanished, either destroyed or hidden. Rumors claim it was dumped into the Baltic Sea or relocated to a secret Antarctic base. Its core science remains unexplained to this day, with some theorists suggesting it toyed with gravity fields or wormholes, fueling endless speculation about Nazi technology lost to time. Number 5. Jet fighters and flying wings, Nazi Germany stealth revolution. Designed by the Horten brothers, the Ho-229 was a revolutionary flying wing jet developed by Nazi Germany in the final phase of World War II. Its futuristic design and radar-evading features foreshadowed modern stealth technology. With a tailless flying wing configuration, the Ho-229 had a plywood steel frame and was coated with mixer with dust and charcoal, accidentally reducing its radar signature to just 40% of typical aircraft. Powered by 2 Junkers Jumo 004B jet engines, it had a theoretical top speed of 620 miles per hour. Actual test speeds reached 495 miles per hour, a range over 1,860 miles, and could climb to 52,500 feet, far outperforming any Allied aircraft of the era. In April 1945, American forces seized an unfinished Ho-229 prototype and its production line. The captured tech would go on to influence post-war U.S. aviation research, planting seeds that would blossom decades later into aircraft like the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. Number 4. Blitzkrieg's dirty secret, meth-powered warfare. To sustain the high-speed, high-intensity operations of the Blitzkrieg during World War II, Nazi Germany systematically distributed a powerful stimulant called Pervitin, a pill laced with methamphetamine, the chemical predecessor to crystal meth, developed by the Temmler Pharmaceutical Company. Pervitin allowed German soldiers to fight for days without sleep. During the 1940 invasion of France, for instance, Rommel's armored division set a blistering pace, covering nearly 50 miles per day, with tank crews reportedly staying awake and operational for 5 straight days and nights. The German High Command treated Pervitin as essential as food or ammunition, labeling it combat rations. Between 1939 and 1940 alone, over 35 million tablets were distributed, with some soldiers taking up to 3 to 5 pills daily. Even Hitler himself wasn't immune. His personal physician, Dr. Theodor Morell, regularly injected him with a so-called super cocktail, a mix of methamphetamine, cocaine, and extract from animal testicles, to keep him energized and mentally sharp. These drugs reportedly allowed Hitler to shout through 6-hour-long meetings and mask his deteriorating health. But as time went on, the effects became impossible to ignore. Hand tremors, facial paralysis, hallucinations, and neurological decline. Symptoms that likely impacted his judgment in critical strategic moments. In the short term, methamphetamine made German troops terrifyingly effective, numbing fear, fatigue, and pain, and pushing the performance to nearly 3 times normal human limits. But the long-term consequences were devastating. During the Battle of Stalingrad, entire units reportedly fired at invisible Soviet troops, victims of shared hallucinations. Soldiers suffered retinal hemorrhages, speech disorders, and complete psychological breakdowns. After the war, many veterans endured agonizing withdrawal. Nazi Germany's reliance on chemical enhancement exposed the regime's willingness to weaponize human biology in pursuit of dominance. at the cost of its soldiers' minds and ultimately its own downfall. Number 3. Indoctrination and the machinery of military mind control. Nazi Germany didn't just conquer land, it colonized minds. Through a calculated system of ideological indoctrination and militarized education, the regime turned citizens into unwavering instruments of war. The foundation? Adolf Hitler's blueprint for belief. Main camps. At the heart of the Nazi worldview was a doctrine of Aryan racial superiority and the Führerprinzip, or leader principle. According to this ideology, the Germanic people were a master race, destined to eliminate inferior groups and build the so-called Third Reich. To instill this from the ground up, the Nazis restructured the entire education system. History lessons equated Hitler with historical giants like Charlemagne. Biology classes emphasized racial purity. Even math problems were weaponized. Students were asked to calculate how much money the state could save by removing people with disabilities. The result was a generation raised to dehumanize and obey. Mein Kampf wasn't just a book. It was a manifesto and military playbook. Its call to turn the sword into plow, to seize land directly inspired Hitler's aggressive expansionist policies. This fusion of ideology and militarism created soldiers who would rather die than surrender. During the Battle of Berlin, one American officer reportedly remarked, "You don't persuade these boys to give up, you let them fight to the death." This chilling efficiency exposed how authoritarian regimes can use education, media control, and a twisted sense of honor to reshape human beings into tools of destruction. Nazi Germany's psychological war machine didn't just alter behavior. It rewired morality, laying the groundwork for one of humanity's darkest chapters. Number 2. Nazi human experimentation. Science without a soul. During World War II, Nazi Germany committed some of the most horrifying crimes ever recorded in the name of scientific research. Behind the barbed wire concentration camps, doctors and scientists carried out systematic human experiments on Jews, prisoners of war, and ethnic minorities, pushing beyond every boundary of medical ethics. Since this is such a vast and complex topic, we'll be dedicating an entire video to it in the future. The top 10 most horrifying human experiments conducted by the Nazis during World War II. If you're interested, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it. Number 1. The mystery of Hitler's death, skull fragments, and Soviet secrets. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler reportedly took his own life inside a Berlin bunker. As Soviet forces closed in, his body was burned and hastily buried by loyal aides. Later, the Soviets claimed they recovered Hitler's charred remains in the garden of the Reich Chancellery, identifying him through dental records. But behind the Iron Curtain, key evidence was kept hidden for decades. Among the Soviet archives was a so-called Hitler skull fragment, a piece of bone said to prove his suicide. Yet in 2009, that fragment underwent DNA testing, and the results stunned the world. The bone belonged to a woman between 20 and 40 years old, not a 56-year-old man like Hitler. Suddenly, the official story was thrown into question. The mystery deepened with a covert Soviet operation in 1970 known as Operation Archive. In this mission, Soviet agents exhumed what remained of Hitler and his longtime companion Eva Braun, cremated their remains a second time, and scattered the ashes in Germany's Biederitz River, all in secret. The reason? To prevent the site from becoming a shrine for future neo-Nazis. These actions only fuel conspiracy theories. Some believe Hitler used a body double to fake his death and escaped via submarine to South America. In recent years, declassified files from Argentina have claimed Hitler lived there under an alias and even fathered children. Yet, while these theories are tantalizing, solid proof remains elusive. Forensic analysis of Hitler's teeth and jaw, preserved by the Soviets, still supports the conclusion that he died in the bunker. And so, the death of Adolf Hitler remains one of history's most haunting and disputed endings, caught between fact, cover-up, and conspiracy. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.